Okay, here we go. So oh, this is the wrong. It started on the wrong window. Hang on. Nope. All right, we're gonna have to go on like this. It doesn't start on the main window, so we'll go like this. It's fine. So at any time you have a question, please type it to the chat window or the Q&A window, and I'll take a look at these windows every now and then, try to answer the questions. And yeah, my name is Yalım Gerger. I'm the founder of Gitora, and today we're going to talk about version control for Oracle, for the Oracle database. So this is most like your traditional delivery pipeline. When you're building, you got a dev database. Most likely you have a test database. The name can be different, but you get the idea. You got a test database, and maybe you get a user acceptance testing database, maybe not. Almost everyone has a pre-prod database, and finally there's a prod database. You try to move code from one database to the other. You try to save the script somewhere on the side to the SVN, which never really works. There's chaos. There's always mistakes, panic. Doesn't really work. So there are many. So why doesn't this work? That's the core of the problem, because this is a solved problem pretty much in every programming language, and the reason is this. I feel the need to talk about this because there's a relevant question that is definitely going to come up, and we're going to preemptively answer it. So other programming languages, Java, JavaScript, and whatnot, they're file-based. Every developer has their file, and then their runtime. This picture represents a runtime. They all have it in their own computer. They have Git, which is used for version control management, and they use Git to move the code among themselves, or to send it to testing or integration or whatever. And every tool that is out there for source control management is built with files and this style of development in mind. Separate files, separate runtime, and same logical object for every developer. This is not how we work in the Oracle database, unfortunately. We got multiple developers working on the same file, if you will. We don't have files. We got packages, procedures are coded in the database, but essentially it behaves like as if it's the same file. And we use the same runtime, which is the database, and of course the same logical object. That's if you talk to a Java developer and explain the way you work, this is insane. That's why the way they work with Git, the way they use version control never works for us. So the most common question I get is, okay, so I have 2 changes in my database. I want to send one of them to test, but I want to keep the other one. I don't want to send the other one. So how do I do that? Well, you can't. And there is really no version control tool out there that can help you, that is used by other developers. Like Git won't help you because they're not designed for the way you're thinking. So something must change. Well, they're not going to change. So we either change or we just give up. So this is the core of the problem. So how does Gitora work? Gitora sits sort of on the side or in between, depending on how you look, between the developers and the database. It tracks what database objects the developer has changed. Then it communicates with Git and commits these changes to a Git repo in a well-structured repository. And the repository looks like this. So each database you have is a folder. And then each repo you have is another folder. Then inside this, so this repo is inside the database. So inside there, you are ERP app and reports app. So under ERP app, you have your schemas as folders. Then inside these schemas represented as folders, you have your database object types as folder names. And finally, inside them, like under the package body, you have all your packages. Under procedures, you have all your procedures. And Gitora does this automatically. So whenever you commit, Gitora will commit your changes with this nice structure, built-in structure, where you don't have to worry about how to structure your repository. Another way to look at it is that Gitora sits sort of in the middle of your databases. It can communicate to all databases. It can take code from the dev database, send it to the test database. It can take code from test database, send it to the pre-prod, or vice versa. It can move database objects between these databases at will. One of the questions we get very often is, do I have to install Gitora to production? The answer is no, you can, but it doesn't really make sense. So the idea is that finally, when you want to go to production, you can generate scripts automatically from Gitora, from pre-prod to go to production. So after Gitora, this all quite useless setup turns into this. This is actually the same Gitora. We don't have 4 Gitoras, there's just one Gitora. And you use Gitora to move your database objects from dev to test fluently. So developers work on dev, they continue to work on dev, and you can assign someone else to facilitate this movement. And you won't have to memorize what you have to move. You won't have to keep lists, or you don't have to worry about people overriding each other. As I'm going to show you, Gitora takes care of all these. Now, this is useful only to a certain degree. The question of, okay, I have 2 changes. I want to move one change to test, but I want to keep the other one. That question, well, that requirement, this doesn't really solve that requirement. It can't. Again, the core of the problem didn't change. Remember, we have this picture. Gitora doesn't do magic. Gitora just makes it possible what's logically possible. So what do? Well, you can get more out of Gitora, and that's where the pluggable databases come in. Gitora helps you to create other development databases. So you can just add another development database, a new one, Dev2, and you can start working there. For example, the Dev1 can be your hotfixes, your database for hotfixes for small bugs or small tasks, where your long-term project can be in another database. Now, previously, without some sort of version control tool, this is impossible. Oh my God, how are you going to manage hundreds of packages, procedures, views, and other table DDLs, etc.? But with Gitora, this is easy. All you need to do is take the changes from one database and send it to the other one. And I'm going to demo this. And another way of looking at this is, same picture. So people develop in Dev1 for small changes for your daily work. Longer projects go to Dev2. And with this logic, you can keep adding new databases. If you need another database for another project, add another one. They won't hurt your regular development. They'll be somewhere else. There is really no limit in the number of databases you can add. Now, at some point, and nobody's there that I know of, and this is quite useful, the way you set up a pluggable database for each project. At some point, this game is flipped. So there is a flipping going on, and depends on you when you make that flipping. But at some point, you'll realize is that this whole databases per project is not the most efficient way. Ideally, you can really work like any other developer, like Java developers, JavaScript developers, where every developer gets her own database. This could be a pluggable database. This could be a local database. And they can have Gitora to manage the database they have, and you'll have a totally new, totally modern development workflow where you have this sort of a triangle where code keeps rolling up and then goes to integration and prod. But this is I believe this is too far-fetched. At this point, I think even this is a huge step forward, but this is really within the grasp of everyone who uses an Oracle database with pluggable database. Okay, this is really all I want to talk about in terms of what Gitora is, and I'm going to move to the demo. Any questions at this point? Oh, there's one from Evan. And I'm going to read the question. In the meantime, you can type other questions. Is a repo used across all environments? Example, dev, test, prod, or does each environment require its own repo? I'm going to paste the question here so that everyone can read it. I'm going to actually demo this today. And the answer is, well, yes and no. Logically, it's going to be the same repo. So physically, like actually, there's going to be a repo for dev. There's going to be physically another repo for test and another one for pre-prod. But logically, it's going to be the same repo. And they're going to treat each other as remote repos. Does this make sense? So maybe I'm going to show this later when we actually do the demo, because you're going to see the repos being created. But let me quickly show here with what I got. So dev, test. So a repo in dev would show up here. And a repo in test would show up here. They're managed by same Git. They're separate repos physically under separate folders, but logically it's the same application. Logically, they're tied to the same application. They're going to treat us as remote as Gitora works, even though they're not really remote. Hope this helps. Did this help? So another question: is each environment linked to a specific branch? When merging changes between branches, are those then deployed in the related environments? Each environment is not linked. The questions keep coming and the actual question keeps disappearing. So I'm going to read the question again. It's a very good question. Comes from Chris. Is each environment linked to a specific branch? When merging changes between branches, are those then deployed in the related environment? No, this is not how Gitora works. It can be set up to work that way, though. Like, I actually thought about this, ultimately decided not to do it that way. But actually, I was wondering if somebody would be interested in doing it this way. Currently, each environment is not linked to a specific branch. Well, how am I supposed to? So you got your database, you got your packages, a certain number of packages in that database. You create a repo from them, and that's it. That repo represents these objects in that database. If you have another database, you create another repo that represents objects in that database. Then you can move code between those databases. So you pull. So if this is test and this one is dev, you can pull. You can go to test and pull from dev. Hope this makes sense. I think it's going to be even more clear when I do the demo. Cyprian asks, does the developer write code on a file, or is it developing directly in the database? He is directly developing in the database. I mean, this assumes that people are developing the database because that's most people do. So Carlos asks how initial export of objects is being done. I'm going to show you that today, but basically there are two ways to do it. There's a UI. You select the objects you want to put and drag them over from left to right. Depending on how many objects you put, and some customers may have put a lot of objects. Some customers put a lot of objects, so that might take a while. So there is also an API to do that. So you can just call an API and they'll just take care of it all. And more specific, Chris asks, and more specifically, we integrate tightly with our ticketing system so we know why this change was done using the blame feature. Can this still be done? Yeah, of course. I don't see any reason why not. Does it work with any Git repo available? Does it use an integrated Git server? From Daniel. Gitora creates its own repos. Now, obviously, now it cannot just work with any random repo. I guess in theory it could, but I mean, just random files randomly distributed on the folders. I guess it's possible to make it work, but I mean, why bother? And if there's a requirement to make it work like that, it is certainly possible where we can, link a specific path to a specific object in the database. That's certainly possible. That's not how it comes because most Oracle customers doesn't have one anyway. In theory, that will be possible though. Jürgen asks, so basically you have one Git repository for each instance. Yes. Dev test, etc. Yes. You then have to add example the dev repo as a remote repo to test so that you can pull from there. Yes, but you don't have to do the adding because Gitora does it automatically. So I'm going to show it to you. As long as you are moving code between the databases that is managed by Gitora, like in this picture, you don't have to do any adding. Does it work with GitLab? Yes. And GitHub and whatever else. And there is a specific feature called push, where you can push to those services. Gitora creates its own repositories using its own Git, but it can point to somewhere else and create those anywhere in your environment. It does it just to make it easier to install and easier to try and easier to run and use. Gitora comes with Git built in, but it doesn't have to use that Git. It doesn't have to create its folders there. That can be changed. I mean, our assumption is that 90% of Oracle customers don't use Git for their databases anyway. They don't have Git. They don't use Git. So we just want to, make it really, really easy for them to get started. Yes, Daniel, you can use GitLab server as your Git repos. Git repos can reside anywhere you like. Cyprian, does the okay, I already answered that. Okay, so I think these are all the questions. You can always write them. I'm gonna keep looking to that chat window. Now I'm gonna start with the, wow, 79 people? Ooh, that's amazing. Thanks, everyone. So let's do the demo. Let's show you how this thing works. All right. All right, so in this example, we're gonna have, I'm gonna take myself out of the video so that, because I don't contribute anything during the demo. My face doesn't really contribute anything. So in this demo, we're gonna have 3 databases: Dev, Dev2, and Test. We're gonna create a repo in Dev. Then we're gonna move that repo to Dev2 and Test. We're gonna make some changes in Dev. We're gonna move it to Test. We're gonna make some changes in Dev2 and move it to Test. I'm gonna first start with what we call soft objects. So any object that can work with the create or replace command, we view them as soft objects, such as packages, procedures, triggers, views, etc. Types. Anything else, such as tables, we we use the word hard objects for them because we can't create or replace them. That creates a challenge in managing them with version control. First, I'm going to show you how Gitora works with soft objects. Then I'm going to show you what Gitora offers to track hard objects, such as tables. We don't claim to have a perfect solution for tables, but it's an interesting one. I think it's a very useful one. And we'll talk about it all. So let's start with dev. I'm going to start with admin. Login as admin. This screen just comes up from Google. It's very annoying, but it keeps coming up. So let's create our first repository. So just to give you the quick tour, this shows the database that we're connected in. These are the repositories. Our more information about our repo is going to show up here. This is the Git functions we can execute. And these are some settings. So let's create our first repo. And this actually belongs to our product called Form Spider. So I'm going to create a Form Spider repository because the application that I'm going to use as an example is called Form Spider. Okay, so I've got a bunch of packages and all sorts of objects in the database. I'm going to add here. I'm going to go to add remove objects. Go to the Form Spider schema. So I can add tables. I'm going to get to that. For now, I'm not going to add tables here. As you see, Gitora Form Spider uses hundreds of packages. I'm going to pick a few in a normal repository that can be thousands. I don't know if Michiel is here. Maybe he is, but they have like 20,000 objects. Michiel, if you're here, say hi. Maybe you can talk about it a little bit. So for now, I'm just going to add like, oh, he's here. So Michiel has, I think he has the work record, like 20,000 objects in the repo. Hi, Michiel. Great to see you. All right. So for now, I'm just going to add 5. So when I do that, Gitora goes, generates scripts and adds them to the repo. I'm going to click done. Just the portion of the message that we received from Git. So for now, I mean, normally you'd have many objects, but this is a demo for 82 people right now. So I want everyone to follow this. I'm going to keep it simple. We can do more complicated examples later if you like. So this is my repo. How do I move this repo to another database? Here's how. What you do is you log out. You go to the other database, such as test. You log in. And this is also empty. You create your new repo. I'm going to give it the same name because logically it's the same repo. You could give it a different name. Doesn't matter. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull from Dev repository. I go to other databases, pull, database, Dev, repo, Form Spider, branch master. This brings everything to the test database. So that was a question about this, how you propagate how we propagate repos, how we initiate repos in databases. This is how we do it. Oh, they have 30,000 objects now in Git. Wow, in Gitora. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with dev2 as well. Okay, so everything is initiated. So next thing I want to do is go to dev and actually do some changes to the database. And to do that, obviously, I'm going to switch to SQL Developer and do some changes. But before that, I want to add a user here. Now, obviously, we got an admin user, and I can log into admin. I can log in as admin and do changes. But one thing that Gitora does is once you add a database object to Gitora, you cannot change that object in the database unless you log into Gitora from your database session. Now, previously, that required the developers to execute one line of code to log into Gitora. So I'd have to call a procedure, log in as admin to Gitora. Only then I could start editing packages or other database objects that are managed by Gitora. Now with Gitora 5, I can say that there's an Oracle user named Yelm, and it's officially also a Gitora user. We're not going to talk about roles for now. So what this enables me is that with zero login, so complete transparency for the developer, he can start editing. So here I'm going to go to, here I'm connected as Yelm to the Dev database. I can go to the form spider schema. I can open the package here and make a webinar edit 1. Now, Gitora recognized user Yelm, recognized that it's a Gitora user, so it allowed edit. If there was some other user, this edit would fail and you'd see an error message somewhere around here that it raised an application error. Okay, so I made a change, and I can make any number of changes to any number of objects. Doesn't matter. So let's make another one to API alert. Webinar edit. Now this can be, I can create a new procedure, delete procedures, whatnot. Imagine anything, really. So I made these 2 changes, and I want to commit. Now, if you come here and if you look at these objects, you see them as red, with red blocks. What this means is that they're locked, they're checked out by another user. I'm logged in here as admin. They are the user who checked out these objects is Yelm. So I cannot commit these. I cannot do anything with these other than just look at what was committed. So what I'm going to do is log out, connect as Yelm, pick the repository, click the commit button. Now I see the list of objects that I can commit. I can pick any one I want. I can pick both. If I forgot what I've done and I try to determine if I need to commit it or not, I can click the Diff button and see the changes that I made. For example, here, you can see that there's a nice Diff viewer where you can see what changes you made. So for now, I'm just going to pick them both. Webinar edit 1, and I'm going to commit. Done. So you see who made the commit. You have a comment. This is quite rich. This is Git-split, so you can dig in here and look at all the changes. You can do blame. You can whatever is it that you want to do. You can explore the repository, or similar features exist here too. You can do a compare from here as well. Like this is something common, like what did just change between the previous state and the current state. And it'll tell you that this is the change. So I made a change. Next, I'm going to move that to test. But before that, I want to look at the questions because I see this screen. I see things that are popping up. What about, so Tom Dings asks, what about dependencies between objects? But as far as packages are concerned or others, Gitora tries to compile them in a manner that makes sense. So bodies, package bodies go first, specs go second, but it doesn't do anything more than that. If you have concerns about that, talk to me, maybe we can improve it. And it tries to execute them in a sensible way. It doesn't do anything extra. If you think we can do something extra, please contact me, and I'm open to ideas. Can I perform commits out? So Carlos Wester asks, can I perform commit outside of Gitora? Well, commit of what? The objects, Gitora 5 only writes the objects to the working directory when you commit. Previously, other versions wrote the changes continuously as you make them to the packages. With Gitora 5, we changed that because opening a port from the database to this application server was causing issues during installation with a lot of shops. So we kind of said, it's not worth it. So as far as the database objects are concerned, currently no, but it can be changed. But as far as doing separate commits for separate objects in the Gitora repo, yeah, of course. Yeah, merge request is something different. This is something we can implement. The thing is, the merge request feature is nicely implemented in GitLab, in GitHub. So what you can do is this button here, it's called push. You can push to GitLab, you can push to GitHub and use merge request features there. I figured that's enough, but if you think that's not enough, we can implement the merge request feature, but I thought that should be enough. I mean, I don't intend to implement every feature GitLab has and GitHub has. They're there, they're nice products. We're planning to be complementary to those products. So Sinisha Stanchev asks, can you do this? Commit checking differences using SQL Developer. Commit check. So no, Gitora 4 had some answering questions. I might just this file open video. So Gitora 4 had a SQL Developer plugin. Gitora 5 doesn't have one. Not sure what the benefit is, because I mean, opening a web page and clicking these is not that terrible. I mean, I don't know what the benefit is of having a SQL Developer plugin. We could do one if there's huge interest, but even with Gitora 4, not many people use the plugin. So currently we don't have a plugin for 5. We could bring it back. I don't know. I guess I have to listen to feedback from customers. Norman asks, can you add reviewers to the change before committing any change? That's your workflow. So I believe Gitora doesn't have a workflow, but these workflows are implemented in bug tracking systems, right? So this is how we do it. So this commit doesn't necessarily mean it goes to production. It just means that it's committed to the repo in dev. The real thing that goes to production is somewhere else. That's after testing. So you can have a review setup, of course. I mean, that's your workflow. I mean, what I'm trying to do is, maybe that's where we're going to go. I don't know. It again depends on the feedback, but I'm trying to avoid this being a bug tracking system and GitHub and GitLab all at the same time. We imagine this as an add-on to those products, not a replacement of those products. That would be a very hard thing to do. It's a huge, humongous task. But maybe a few features we should add. I don't know. Hasan Özçelik asks, can we run DML script via Gitora? If we can run it, how is it possible to version DML script and spread it to other environments? We're going to get to that. There's a hard object. Oh, DML. Oh, not DDL. DML. The ML is a separate story. We're going to have more to say about that. Currently, we only offer this as a custom consulting service. We don't. It's not part of this product, but we'll have more to say about that in the future. Sinisha Sanchez asks, it is easy from the dev perspective to work on one tool instead of using one. Yeah, well, yeah. So far, you have always pulled the complete master branch. How would you realize the deployment of certain features? Oh, you can. So the question is, so far you have always pulled the complete master branch. How would you realize the deployment of certain features? Gitora has branches, and you can you can pull branches. And the features, well, it depends again your workflow. But you can have feature branches, and you can develop your features and feature branches. Or you can develop your features and master branches, but on separate databases. It depends on how you want to go about it. I'd probably feel more comfortable, like that's what I do. I have a separate database for the feature, and I create a feature branch, and my everyday branch would be that feature branch. I would work on that feature branch, develop my feature, and then at some point I would merge it back to the master branch. But again, that's workflow. This is running out of battery. You can still hear me, right? Michel asks, for code review, so Michel has a comment about code review. He says, for code review, we paste diff commit URLs from Gitora into the ticket, so you can see the code changes with one click. Hey, good idea. Chris asks, could table data reference can be managed using this as well? Yes. Currently, it's not available as part of this product. It's like I can do it here. I have customers where I have implemented this. They had very complex requirements. If this is something you're interested in, please contact me. Currently, I can only offer this in a customized way for you. I am working to offer that as a package product. Even today, I was working on it, but it is possible, yes. And it's really great. Luis Miguel Fermoso asks, what about moving to a branch with a different table model? The model is modified to the version, or it only changes packages. Well, we can't do magic. So we can't change table structures when you switch branches. That's theoretically possible, but I guess it's kind of difficult to do, also dangerous to do in some cases. I can imagine a lot of enterprises where DBAs would be very uncomfortable when I start to drop columns or drop tables all of a sudden. So currently, we don't do that. But like I said, we offer a solution to track DDLs. Unfortunately, it's forward only. And I'm going to show you today what we offer. Okay, I guess this looks like all the questions. So now I'm going to move on. So where was I? Okay, so I did this. I made changes. I didn't move this to test yet, right? Okay, so now that I make some changes, let's move these changes to test. I can connect this admin. And what I do is go to other databases, pull from dev. I just do the same thing that I did before. I could pull from any branch, by the way. I'm only showing it from one branch because this is a webinar. I can do way more complicated things, but I don't want to lose people. Okay, so two changes are here. Accordion panel arrived, API alert arrived, and if I go to the test database, and look at the code. Ooh, they're here. My changes moved to test. Amazing. Now, obviously, there are, let's move to Dev2 and let's make some other change in Dev2. So Dev2 developer does other things, completely different things. I'm not going to cause a merge commit, merge conflict. I'm not going to do that. Maybe if we have time, I can do it. Gitora offers, like, supports conflicts and helps you resolve those conflicts. So now I'm not logged in the test database. Look, this is the test database. So let me go to close these. So I want to go to Dev2, make some totally different changes. And notice I'm not logged into Gitora yet. So I'm going to open this package and make a change. Webinar edit 1. And it's going to fail because I'm not logged in yet. As I mentioned before, there are a couple of ways to log in. The other way is to type one line of SQL, SQL, and log in using this. Okay. Oops. All right. So now I can actually save my changes. Dev2 edit. I'm just trying to make this obvious. So while Dev1 was working on something and sending it to test, Dev2 didn't care, just minded her own business, and he's ready to now the Dev2 team is ready to send his code to test. But here's the problem: test move forward. So what are they going to do? The first thing they're going to do, and here's a workflow. This is an actual, real workflow. They'll pull from test. This might cause some merge conflicts if we edit the same lines in the same packages. In this case, I didn't do that. But so everything just merged so kind of nicely, but it's ready. I merged my changes. If there were any problems with the code, some conflicts, I would solve them here. Then this is ready to send to test. So I go to test, go to other databases, go to Dev2, and pull the new code. Voila, it's here. It's in the test. I can now test it here. And similarly, Dev2 could, every now and then pull from Dev1 to sync its code base with the Dev1 database. As the saying goes, merge often. When you work like this, it's recommended that you merge often so that you avoid huge merge conflicts. But this is an actual workflow that I tried to show. There is a longer version, the actual implementation version on the website, how we do this. I'm going to share the link with you when I send an email tomorrow. Let me see if there are any questions. There is one. Adam Glauser asks, coming from a non-Oracle background, it makes sense to me to have all the application code in one repo. Can you comment further, that is database, front-end service, etc. Can you comment further on how it would look to use Gitora to manage a subset of a larger repo? Good question, excellent question. Example, could you make changes in DB, update the working tree, and add changes to index, then do a larger commit, including that has been modified elsewhere? I'm going to separate this in two. first of all, can you comment? Let me answer the first part first. Can you comment further on how it will look to use Gitora to manage a subset of a larger repo? Okay, so in Gitora 5, we actually thought about this. In previous versions, that wouldn't work. But in Gitora 5, this repo, so this is where this is where everything starts for Gitora. But you could here, you could have anything else. It could be like arbitrarily complex. It would not affect Gitora. Gitora would simply ignore them, ignore everything else, and it would work only with the files and folders that it cares about. So if you put other stuff to a repo that Gitora works with, it will not break Gitora. So that's good news. So database people can work with this part and commit, and other developers can work with on their side, and then you can later on merge. As for that complicated thing you asked, like could you add indexes, trees, and modify commit later? No, Gitora doesn't do that. I don't think this is necessary though. In the Oracle world, database, maybe in the enterprise world, I can't really talk about anything, talk about other databases, but in the Oracle database world, like the database people are separate, they do their things separately. It makes sense for them to have a separate repo. Could we support the thing you asked where everything is kind of committed? It's a you know, a smaller part of a larger commit. Yes, we could do that. So yeah, we can implement that. And if this is something you're interested in, you know, we can talk about that. Just contact me. The example didn't confuse the issue. I understand what you mean. It's just this just something it doesn't come out of the box. It's something I have to do for you if this is something you're interested in. Carlos Westers asks, great tool, but for us it would be great if all Git operation would happen outside the specific tool. Tool would perform installation of changes to specific environment after merge of changes happen to specific branch. You need to contact me later, Carlos, about this. And then I guess it's a larger, quite a different question. If you think Gitora can help, because we customize Gitora sometimes with customers. So if you think a customization with Gitora would support you, contact me, we can talk about it. Norman, how do I roll back changes committed to a required date and timestamp? Roll forward or backward my changes? Perfect question. Now, Gitora has all these commands. These are Git commands. The one you're asking about, Norman, is reset. So let me go to Dev. And let's say, I have this webinar edit in Dev. I'm going to do another one. Let's do one more. Let's open the alert. Let's do another one, webinar edit 2. So I didn't read it. I'm going to commit that. And now, at some point, as it turns out, we regret this, or we want to go back. Let's say we want to go back to a previous state, this state. So what you do is you copy this. You can copy this 6 letters, it's fine, or you can copy this whole commit ID. Go to Git, reset, paste that commit ID, and click reset. And now we're back. We're back to this state. The database is back to this state. The change we made has disappeared. It's not here anymore. It's gone. So this is the reset function of Gitora. You can create branches. So you make changes to a database, you create a branch, and you move forward from this branch. And whenever you change your mind and want to go back to the original branch, you can come back, your changes will disappear the changes you made in the new branch will disappear. You can merge branches. You can delete branches, obviously. You can tag certain commits that are of importance to you. And you can push your changes to GitHub, GitLab, all these cloud services with one click. Hussein Doğan asks, can I send the changes in feature branch with merge request, then approve and merge to test, then deploy automatically? Well, the merge request piece, you need to implement somewhere else, but basically, yes. I mean, the merge request is not a feature of Git, it's a feature of GitHub or GitLab. And I like to avoid implementing GitHub and GitLab again. So those are done somewhere else, but Gitora can absolutely be part of such a workflow. Adam Glauser. Carlos' question about Git operations being done outside the tool and Gitora just manages getting changes from database as source and applying changes to database when head changes. This is more like the model I have in mind for managing more of a full stack repo. I don't have plans to use Gitora immediately, but we'll have to discuss the idea sometime. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you see a place for Gitora doing that part you described, sure, we can just do that part. Can we use command line like we can see in GUI example? Yes. So, well, this loves asks, can we use command line like we can see in GUI? Yes, it's not command line per se, but there's an API. So Gitora has a full set of APIs. And it's fully documented. Where is it? Somewhere here. Yeah, the whole thing is documented here. Actually, let me go here in the learn section. Gitora APIs. So we have all these APIs, so you can pretty much do everything you want to do using APIs. And this is the documentation. There's an excellent documentation there. No, I didn't write the CLI for the API. It's in my to-do list. Evan asks, after I add a user, can the user log into the Gitora application with their ID, or do they have to use the admin account? Oh, no, they don't have to use the admin account. So Gitora has users, and you can create users here. And they can be Gitora users, just all by itself, or you can introduce an Oracle user as a valid Gitora user, just like I did here. Oh, so hang on, this is, so I need to go to the admin. I need to log in as admin to see them. So as you see here, Yalom is an Oracle user, which is also an Gitora user. I think this is the best way to have people use Gitora because it'll be completely seamless. However, not everyone is a database user for their developers. Like I know shops where everybody shares the same, little shops, smaller shops where everybody shares the same Oracle login username and password to develop. So it works both ways. Presh Mehta asks, does a pull into a DB automatically perform an autocompile? Does the DPA has to do it manually? Yeah, the DBA has to do it manually. You don't do an autocompile. But we try to create objects in a sensible order. So with this, armed with this, you can create complicated workflows to manage your development workflow. Now, I want to move to the hard objects quickly and show you what Gitora offers for hard objects such as tables. So there are two things that Gitora offers for DDLs, hard objects, that is objects that cannot work with create or replace, but only work with create. You can add them to repositories, like they're first-class objects. So I can come here, just pick a table. So let me pick the setup, add. Yeah, and when I do that, you'll have the DDLs here. These will, if you do a reset, the text will change. These will behave like any other object here. So if somebody say adds a column to a table, that table will be locked, and only that person can modify the definition of that table. So it will be red here. You'll see a red lock, and when you commit, you'll see the DDL here change. It will be another create table statement here. So all those aspects work similarly. Now, what doesn't work is that Gitora doesn't create alter statements when you pull. Gitora simply ignores tables and materialized views and sequences. You'll see the correct scripts here, but the changes will not apply to the database. But this is still useful to generate scripts, because Gitora has a generate script feature where you can simply go like this. Like this would give me the whole script. I can include soft objects, hard objects. This is how we go to production. So if you know the commit ID of your production, and if you know the commit ID that you want to go, you just type the production commit ID here, type the commit ID you want to go here, you click get script, and script, voila, you got script. This is your script to go to production. And notice, so the tables come first. Also, what's good is Gitora is foreign key relationship aware. So the tables are going to be created in the correct order, where master tables will show up first and child tables will show up second. For example, in this case, this table references this table. So this comes first and this comes second. So having tables here is useful to generate scripts where you can just send where you want to create a new database for someone or whatever. The second thing that Gitora offers is, and I'm going to create a new repo for this. I'm going to go hard object repo. Gitora also can track DDLs executed in a user. So for example, if I add form spider here, now this repo is going to follow every DDL statement executed in the form spider user. And by that, I mean the DDL statements for hard objects, such as tables. So alter statements for tables, create table, etc. All of this is going to be tracked by Gitora. So if I come here, oh, which database am I in? Dev, okay, so Gitora, we come here. I logged in here. Let's log in here too. And let's add a column to the BDF setup table. I'm adding a webinar one column. So now, oh, I'm logged in as admin, good. So now I'm as an admin, I come here, I'm trying to commit, I see a DDL here. So all the DDLs that I created will show up here in the commit screen. I can decide to include them. I can, if they're irrelevant, I can delete them. I can not include them and keep them for a commit later. So in this case, webinar column added. What this does is it adds this DDL to a script that Gitora keeps. And as you add alter statements, this script is going to get larger and larger. And then you can move the script to test. And you can create a new repo, hard objects repo. And oh, it's here. So now, armed with this, you can execute this DDL in your test database. So let's say you added an additional column after you've done this, after you pull your script. So what about the second, third, fourth edition? So let's say that I had another one. Well, what column is right here? Maybe not. So let's go say maybe not 2. Comes to dev. There are several ways to go about it. You can actually, after a certain period, once you're comfortable that everything went into a database, you can clear this DDL script here, because Gitora allows you to edit this script. So you can actually add stuff here, reference other scripts, or just change it, erase it. But I'm just showing you one way of going about this is you go to test, other databases, you pull, okay, so we got the changes. So, okay, so we already executed this. How do we know which one we're going to execute? You can do a compare. And the new ones are highlighted. So you can take this part of the script and execute it. Again, this is not the perfect solution. This is not the excellent solution, but it gives you a great way to track what's going in your databases and what kind of scripts are you missing, what you need to execute. So I think it's really, most people I work with have nothing, or it's all manual. So I think it's really helpful to have something automated that helps you keep track of DDL statements for hard objects as well. Questions? What is it? Kola asks, what's the advantage of Gitora over team coding with Oracle Toad or SQL Developer, for example? Oh, those don't do any of this at all. Like nothing. You just save files to your local hard drive. Michael asks, are object privileges also included in the DDL script? Yes, everything is included. Any other questions? Marcel asks, can Gitora be used in combination with Oracle EBR? Is there any support for this in Gitora? Well, Gitora, I don't know if you have a way of having them work together. Sure, I haven't used them. There is nothing in Gitora that would prevent you from using with edition-based redefinition, not that I know of. Dimitrios Katsigiannis, what about roles and grants to roles in the DDL script? Yes, this catches grants and roles and everything. This catches everything. Gilliam asks, so you can compare complete table changes in the create table statement as well as storing and using the alter table. Yeah, you can do both, exactly. And it's not an either or. Actually, I think you should do both. Can you create a diff for the DDL script to be deployed to prod? Yeah, I just showed you. That's a diff. Here's the diff. This could be prod. One of the common questions I receive from Umar Shankar, is there a way to export Apex applications using Gitora? No, this method could be used to export Apex data in the Apex tables, but not with Gitora. Wim asks, can the managed schema DDLs be applied to another schema? They come with these prefix, but that can be changed if that's what you mean. I mean, out of the box, they come with the prefixes, but they can be removed. Any other question? Yeah, you can do that. Like I said, you need to do some changes, but it's possible. Kalim asks, hi Yalim, if Gitora creates a script to track all alter statements for hard objects, can't that script be added with any DML that needs to be saved? Oh yeah, you can. If you have any DML handy, you can come here. Where is that? Oh, here it is. You can come here, click edit, and type here whatever you want. Yeah, this is blank box, blank text, empty editor. That you can do whatever you like here, and write an explanation and then commit. Daniel asks, rather silly question, but can you also track DML operations? For instance, for lookup, well, I can only do it as like custom work for you. I've done it for really complex tasks where we had to literally have people perform Git operations and Git commands, and the data in the tables change, and it works both directions. I've done this as part of Gitora, but only as a service. I'm trying to package that and offer that as a standalone product right now. I mean, even today I worked on that, but this is going to be a while until it's done. It's not a silly question, by the way. This is a huge need, I think. What's the best site to learn about Gitora at 101 level? Go to gitora.com. There's a learn, here it is, gitora.com. There's a learn section, and this is getting started. And everything here is good. Like this is good, this is good, this is good. Like this is wonderful, this is very good. So everything here just very useful. Oh, by the way, I promised everyone who attended a discount code. I should keep my promise. So I'm gonna keep. So if you're interested, if you find Gitora useful, it's going to be $100 cheaper for you because I truly appreciate your time. So here's the link. I'm going to keep this up until the end of the month, and everyone's going to get a $100 discount on Gitora. Any other questions or anything you'd like me to show? Because I only show just a little bit. Like if you are interested in Gitora and want to see more, please book an appointment, and I'd be happy to show you a deep dive a demo that shows all the features. Can we store DDL statements per table? It's not per table, because I thought about that doing per table. So per table, what you have is this. Per table, what you have is this. And it not just stores the tables, by the way, it also stores the foreign keys in it, indexes, and everything. So this is the whole deal, not just the tables. But when it comes to the alters, I didn't see much logic in having these per table, because if you want to execute this, you just want to execute all of it. Why would you execute half of it? And the way you want to have it part of the table VDL is if you want it part of the create table statement, and you can always do that here. So now, as you see, this doesn't have everything, but if I come here and click this and just commit, and now if you look at my DDL, it'll have all the new columns I have. So I think this makes more sense, unless I'm wrong, and you have a specific need, let me know. Can you manage multiple schemas in? Yes, you can manage multiple schemas in one DDL script. Actually, this is the only way it works. Does Gitora handle scheduler jobs? Handle was, if you create them with a DDL, you would capture them here. They would definitely show up here. I didn't create one, but if you execute one, it will show up here. How easy is it to migrate from Gitora 4 to Gitora 5? Should be very easy. Yeah, contact me, John. We'll get you through. We'll find a way. So Daniel asks, if multiple developers work on the same project, do they lock stored objects on edit and release it after commit? Yes. So if multiple developers work on the same package, you said project, I guess you meant package. So if they work on the same project, they are in the same object. So if I open up a package, I save it, it's mine now, and nobody else can do anything with it. And there's two ways to release that object. One is to commit it, but the other way is to release it. And when they release it, they have to give up their changes. So when you hit the release button, that means that you are giving up all the changes you made. You're going to restore that package from the previous commit point. Can we include shell scripts? Yes, but not, well, you can include them to the repo directly from the folder here. In the future versions, I'm planning to add a scripts folder here where you can add random files, and then you'll be able to. Hi, one other question related to DMLs. How does Gitora manage any out of sync sequence numbers that are erased that are used in data? Gitora doesn't do anything with sequences because they are not soft objects, they are hard objects. All it does is it stores them. So for historical purposes, they're here. And doesn't do anything with them and you rarely change them, but if you change something about a sequence, then you commit them, it'll just keep the next one here. Yeah, there's probably a number here when you commit the sequence, but other than that, it doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't update sequences in the database. That would be a dangerous thing to do. So it only reads them. Mindaugas asks, how are changes handled when the same object is modified in Devdb with two developers in two different branches? Okay, I need to make this clear. Does Gitora help in some way to handle such situations? Well, that's impossible. But first of all, how are changes handled when the same object is modified in Devdb with two developers in two different branches? So one database, one package in one database at any point in time can only represent one branch. There is only one branch in the database active. Let me show. Show, don't tell. That's the secret, I guess. So currently, this is in master branch. So this is dev1 change 1. I need to log in as, did I make the change in the correct, which database is the devfs? Okay. Dev. Okay. I'm going to commit this change. Dev1, edit 1. So now I can create a new branch. But if I create that branch, create branch. So I can choose to make it the active branch or not, but making it a non-active branch is just going to be there and be useless. I guess it's certainly possible. So I'm going to create a dev branch based on the master branch. I'm going to make it an active branch. Okay, now currently my database is in the dev branch. So this is now the dev branch, the way it is. So I'm going to use the same developer. Well, let me log in as a separate developer to make it even clearer. So I'm going to come here. Oh, Spider. So Yellum makes the change. The previous one was made by the admin. Change Yellum on change. So yeah, I'm making a change. This change is now going to be committed to, oh, I don't see this change because this is the admin user. If I connect as Yellum, the dev database, I'll see this change. Yellum change 1. So this change is now in the dev branch. I can, if I switch back to the master branch, which I can do here, change branch, master, that change is gone from the database. So if I close this here, it's gone. And any change I make here is not present on the other branch. And you can merge these changes. If I'm here on master branch and I want the changes from the dev branch, I can go merge branch, take the dev branch and click merge. There are no conflicts. That could be, there aren't. And if I close and turn it, open it up again, the change is here now. So this is how Gitora helps with one database. Yes, Danielle. When I say checkout, it's a this is mine. I'm not using the Git terminology when I say checkout, which is confusing. I know I was confused too, but I think it's easier to communicate with database developers that way. This is why I chose it. Yes, Norman, you can download Gitora from gitora.com. It has a trial version that it doesn't have an expiration date. It just lets you create small repos with like 20 objects or something. That's all. Is checkout a Gitora feature or is the Git feature? So the way I use the term checkout here, where I reserve an object for myself, for a developer, that's a Gitora feature. I didn't talk about the roles and privileges in Gitora, but let me quickly mention it. Maybe it's interesting for someone. So Gitora Enterprise comes with full authorization where you can decide who does what. So you can allow people to perform any Git operation. You can limit developers to the only commits. And you can also restrict people from, like you can reserve certain objects for certain developers, or you can exclude people from certain objects, so they won't be able to edit them. So it has a comprehensive authorization scheme if you have a large team, and then that will be something interesting indeed. And you can do this at the database level and at the repo level. And there's a huge write-up. There's a write-up on the website that you can read. I think very useful for large teams where coordination can be a challenge. Mindaugas asks, it is a common situation where separate dev teams work simultaneously in separate features in the same Devdb. Yes, so when developers change branches, they overlap the changes of other team and the objects become invalid. I know it's difficult to solve this problem from single Devdb instance perspective, so I'm looking for solutions for it. Okay, I guess you joined us later because there is, so I'm going to read it again quickly. It is a common situation when separate dev teams work simultaneously in separate features in the same Devdb. So when developers change branches, they overlap the changes of other team and the objects become invalid. This is the most common question we get. I know it is difficult to solve this from single Devdb instance perspective, so I'm looking for solutions for this annoying problem. The solution is to have another Devdb. There is no other way. You cannot solve this problem with only one development database. Let me go back to my presentation. Oops, sorry. So normal Java developers, every other developer, JavaScript developers work like this. They have separate files, separate runtimes, application servers on their computer. They work on the same logical object and communicate with Git. In the database, developers work on the same file. This is insane. If you talk to a Java developer, they go, are you crazy? What are you even doing? So you can't solve this problem like this. The only solution is to create another database so that you can do this. I understand that it's difficult to give each developer their own database and packages, logistical reasons, but you can at least create another one with pluggable DBs that's really easy. So if you have two, you can divide by project. Some developers work on hotfixes. They work on the same package, same packages, same files, but Gitora coordinates the access. So they don't overwrite each other. Other developers work on a separate project. They change those packages willy-nilly. They don't affect this database. And Gitora helps by leveraging Git. And I showed you in the demo where I had a dev database, a dev one database, dev two database. Dev one people coded something, send it to Git. In the meantime, dev two people coded something and send it to test without being affected by the changes of the dev one, because they easily could merge those changes before they send their changes to test. So that kind of a setup is, possible with Gitora. If you don't have Gitora, having two databases working, people working separately would be really, really difficult. Not with Gitora, and you can keep adding databases as you feel more comfortable. Hope this helps. Understand, okay, just wanted to double check. We have complex infrastructure, so to multiply it per dev team is hardly, I understand it's hard, but well, there are two options. You either live with the problem or solve it. Even adding one database per project is going to be a huge step forward. It's going to be a huge step forward. Like sitting and complaining and won't solve anything, because there won't be any solution ever. Like this problem will never be fixed with one single development database. Yes, yes, of course. I'm going to send everyone a link for the recording. And the slides if you can. There is not much in the slides, but anyway, I'll send it. Yes, the solution is pluggable databases, Gillian. You start with the second one, then a third one, fourth one, and take it as far as you go. And once you feel comfortable, the solution will be obvious to you once you have the right tooling. Any other questions? What's the approximate cost for the enterprise edition per dev? Well, it's not, I don't know. Talk to your Oracle support specialist. I don't know. That changes so much with Oracle and Oracle's pricing. Who knows? I know a few pluggable databases are free. I think with the recent versions of Oracle, the first few are free. That I heard. I think up to 4 or something, it's free. Oh, Gitora enterprise licenses. That depends on the number of hours. Well, email me, and because it depends on if you want a subscription or the whole license, and if you need professional support or not. That changes numbers, but it's quite affordable. And I'll give you email me how many developers you have, and I'll give you a quote. Any other questions? Oh yeah, if we do in the demos for teams. So if you're interested, if you'd like to know more, if you'd like me to show you each feature one by one, please book a demo. I'm doing one in 2 days for a team in Peru. When you create users in Git, is this creating different namespaces for each user and the changes get merged when they commit back? No, we don't create users in Git. We just change the config file. I mean, the users are Gitora users, not Git users. Nothing special is happening. All we do is just update here. Where is it? Yeah. We just update this. So we just keep changing that while we commit. Thank you, William. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. I hope you guys liked it. Gitora 5 is a really big release for us because now we got one installation of Gitora managing any number of databases. We got a nice UI. We got actually a separate enterprise application with roles and new features. So I hope you take a look at it. Any other questions? Well, I think we're good. Thank you, Norman. Thank you. Very kind of you. So seems like that's all there is to it. I truly appreciate everyone's time. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you know how to find me. So thank you for your time. Bye. Bye.